This is Batman again. Boy, if you think me and Superman throw it down on the big screen in the new movie, wait till you get a load of what these hosts do today. Yeah, it's not pretty. After the show, stay tuned for a special interview with a special guest. Yeah, that's right. It's a double-sized episode, people. So hang on to your capes, because you just joined Super Geeks. All right. Well, that was cool. So, how is everybody doing this week? So, let me start at the top. Magnum, Anthony Battles. Where can people find you on Facebook?
You can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Battles.
Returning us with us tonight, being a little sleepy, hoping to hang in there because she's a superhero. Is
Heroin.
That sounded interesting. Shell, how are you?
I'm good.
And where can people find you?
People can follow me on Twitter at MichelleLHS.
Almost sounded like LSD. Sounds good. So, and then we got returning with us. Oh, and I'm George, and you can find me at Chooch99A. And what about you, my friend Raul? Where can people find you?
People can find me nowhere currently.
Okay, nobody can find you because you're hiding from the law. We get it. You're Mexican.
I'm hiding on an online game right now.
Oh, all right.
And he's on a horse with a tamale on some social
He's
media site.
on a horse with a hat, eating a tamale with Cholula
Wearing
sauce,
wearing
a poncho, and drinking coffee like
one.
Juan Valdez.
He is from Cuba.
Stereotyping on this one. No.
All right. And another person returning with us is our friend Ross. Ross, where can people find you?
People can find me at the bottom of a barrel.
The bottom of a bottle?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say.
They're staring down a barrel of 45.
No lie.
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter, Subsailor688.
All right. Well, so, anyways, how's everybody's weeks? This week. It's only been a week. How's everybody been this week?
Pretty
Well,
good.
I was fine until I found out that Batman v Superman is an unholy mess, and that even Wonder Woman can't even save the movie.
According to Maxim magazine, a magazine whose
Totally
reputation...
think Magnum's about to make $1 off George.
No, this is the from the Daily Beast, and I posted in the link so you can read it. And I'm going to get $1. I'm going to win $1.
I don't know. There's mixed
I say
reviews.
reserve judgment until the damn thing's out.
I say see it with your own eyes.
There's a statement somebody, Tyrone Magnus, a reaction popular guy that I respect, and he says something that's going to be a little rude when I say it, but I'm quoting from him, well, paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly what he said. But he said it like this. He's listened to all the reviews, the mixed reviews from everybody, and this is what he said. He said, basically, if I saw a hot chick on the street and we hooked up, and I heard from everybody that she had herpes, I'm going to find out myself.
That's nasty.
It is nasty, but that's kind of the way I see it, too. I'm not going to...
Well...
Not to be a fanboy, it's just like... I'm hearing mixed
That's a
things.
terrible analogy.
George, you're totally going to be a fanboy.
I'm not going to get herpes.
Well, George
would like
George
to
would
check
get herpes.
first.
George is totally going to be a fanboy, but here's the one saving grace is it's not R, and that's the only advantage it has over Deadpool.
I think that you're right.
I'm going to read something to you, and this will explain. The best and worst aspects of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice can be summed up in a scene you've probably seen before. In their first encounter, the last son of Krypton shows up on a rooftop in Gotham to warn the Dark Knight of his vigilante ways. The Bat is dead, he smirks before turning and flying off into the night sky. Do you bleed? Retorts Batman. You will. Right? Okay. Anyway. Yeah, so it went downhill from there.
All right, listen. So you quoted a couple of sources. That doesn't sum up everybody. Okay, we're going to hear. Actually, what you really need to wait on is the Rotten Tomatoes numbers, because they collect the data. It's not a one single opinion. It's a collection. It's a collective of opinions. What I'll actually go by that. However, that being said, I'm open to the possibility of that I'm not going to think the movie's awesome, because from what there's this one site of people, the Collider movie people and the Schmoes Knows guys. I've followed them for a while, and I have come to respect their way and the reasons why they make informed decisions about how to judge stuff. And what they said earlier today was, the movie's watchable. The movie is something you should see, and it doesn't at all detract or make people nervous or make them nervous about the possibilities for Justice League or anything like that. But the one thing they will agree on is that there's, I guess, they call it sloppy editing. They said that there are moments throughout the whole movie that are awesome, but it's the pacing and how they also said something else. They said kids are not going to want to see this movie, even though you should, like Marvel does, make a movie that the kids want to see. Everybody wants to see Batman and Superman. Like, the kids are going to go, oh, Mommy, Daddy, take me to go see Batman and Superman. However, they do agree kids aren't going to enjoy this movie because the pacing's a little off, so that they're going to get bored by all the non-action before they get to another action point. And I'm open to that possibility. I'm not, like I said, I'm trying not to fanboy out. I'm actually trying to be objective going into this.
All right. I mean, who cares about Batman fighting Superman? All we want really is the Justice League.
I'll agree with you there.
What do you mean tipping their hand? We knew going in that this was going to be the beginning of a Justice League saga.
Yes, it says
right, but he invalidated, saying,
how? You're agreeing with this one source, and I'm not agreeing with you.
Here's the thing
it's just a feeling. Really, I got a feeling. I feel it in my fingernails that they're going to fight.
It's not. This doesn't happen anyway. What's the point of that?
Okay,
all right.
so
all I got to say is this: everything that I'm saying right now, after you watch the movie, you're going to say, "You know what, Black Magnum? You're right. Here's your dollar."
Oh, hell no.
Here's the thing that's killing me about this whole ordeal.
Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
1 second, because how long have comic books been out? How long have comic books
over 90 or 85 years?
Just
like
get to the point.
In 95 years, are people still having trouble with the concept that comics are not just for kids?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, actually, they're only just starting to understand that. Actually,
in Europe,
we talked about that one episode.
It's a different story. Comics are treated
here.
As
it's a
adult.
Different story.
Actually, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I was explaining how Sean Connery himself, when he did the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I'll be quick because I know I mentioned this. I'm just for Ross's sake because he brought it up. Sean Connery, when he took on the role of Alan Quartermain in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, had to do research he didn't have to. He wanted to. And he realized, he said this on, I think it was the Today Show. He said he didn't realize that comics were legitimately able to tell good stories. He just always assumed the unpopular view that older generations have, that if you read a comic book, it's you're reading a kid's thing. He suddenly understood that there's a reason they call it graphic novels, because they're like novels with pictures. So basically, it is new for people understanding that there is more to it. I would say within the last 10 years, if I had to guess.
I think if you are into comic books, if you're part of that group that grew up, even like 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old women that grew up and they've embraced the whole comic book culture their entire lives, they think, yes, comic books are not just for children, but for the 90% of the world who isn't into comic books, like hardcore, they are the people that don't realize that comic books are not just for kids.
I want to point something else out too. Just because early reviewers have had mixed, and don't say
one thing before moving on to the subject. Talking about comics as adult adult art, when you really, if anybody has any confusion, they really need to go and pick up a book called Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. It's totally a graphic novel. It's very easy to read, and it's a very good explanation of the history. It's called Understanding Comics: The Invisible Art. It was put out in 1993. It's a very serious book. It's 215 pages.
Very
it's
serious
very
book. By that you mean it's not a kid's book, basically.
It's not a kid's book. It's by a cartoonist named Scott McCloud. It's nonfiction. It is excellent. Comic book readers should read it. Comic book readers should then gift it to somebody who doesn't understand what they do, and they'll understand it. Their parents, their girlfriends, whoever. I highly recommend this.
That sounds good. My thing is this. There's, like I said, credible... When I say credible, I mean it would take me half a show to explain why I validate these people. There's certain sources that have reviewed Batman v Superman, and I listen to their opinion, and they actually go very detailed into why it's a great movie, but it has this problem and this problem. That doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It just means they're saying, as from a non-fanboy movie-going experience, there's a reason why, as a movie, these parts could have been done better. But nobody is saying...
Can I say something? I haven't said anything about Batman versus Superman.
Oh yeah,
yet.
Go ahead. That's fine.
The reason there is a problem with Batman versus Superman is it wasn't made by Marvel, and Marvel has set a very high standard now for the.
That's a good point.
The Marvel Studio line has set a very high production value, has put very good directors in line with very good writers, and made them all work together.
They have a certain tone too. Zack Snyder has been hit or miss, anyways. Now remember, he's not going to be the only person. It's like Star Wars right now. He's not going to be the only one who is controlling the direction and the pace and the tone of the whole DC the DC film universe going forward. Zack Snyder did the reason why people are kind of, they're not really. It's not so much concern. It's like they're judging it. And this might actually be, I will admit, a mistake that they might have made in choosing him to do this one. Here's why. Zack Snyder had mixed reactions with Man of Steel. Now, I loved Man of Steel.
I thought it was a great movie.
But Zack Snyder is admitted, and I'm a fan of him as a director. However, I was also at one time a fan of not Steven Spielberg, of George Lucas. And I will say this, Zack Snyder is hit or miss. 300, awesome. Sucker Punch, not so much. So he has a lot of hit or misses in his resume. So choosing him to go back to back with doing Man of Steel and then Batman v Superman might not have been the wisest decision. So that might be the part that hurts them a little bit. I think when they get to someone else is doing Justice League. He's not. They've already. I can't remember who the guy's name is, but somebody else is doing Justice League. So I'm hoping. My hope is people will give it a chance. My hope is that no matter how many mixed reviews people have, that they can see the potential. So that when someone else helms the next film, which is Justice League, or actually Wonder Woman, I'm sorry, and that's by a female director, by the way, in Wonder Woman. Is it? I think they may have to change that. The idea is, though, is that it's not Zack Snyder the next two times. In fact, I don't even think Zack Snyder's lined up to direct any of them going forward anytime soon.
Right.
I have hope that he will have set the table for the dinner that's coming, if you know what I mean.
I will say this. If you go watch a movie where Batman v Superman and no one wins the fight, that tends to be a letdown. I mean, you got someone from an alien from another planet who gets his power from the sun, and then you get some man who buys, who's a billionaire, and uses technology to fight this alien being, but no one wins the fight. Then they become friends and they team up, and then all of a sudden Gal Gadot comes in and saves all of them. It tends to be a letdown. I haven't seen the movie, and again, it's not a spoiler. But I'm just saying, dude, they fight. You remember, Superman has enough strength that the strength that it would take for him to throw a punch can melt a human being, the energy that it would take, right?
Yeah. And so, 2 trailers ago, they spoiled way too much.
Yeah, they spoiled a lot. but no one wins the fight. So that there is a letdown.
We know that obviously they're setting up the Justice League, so it doesn't even take someone who is knowledgeable of the
subtitle of the movie is called Dawn of Justice. They shouldn't even have called it Batman versus Superman.
You know why they called it?
Yeah, but they did. But see, the whole point was that Batman was scared of Superman and saying he had too much power and we need to limit him.
He said if there's even a 1% chance that we're wrong, because Alfred, who I heard is awesome in this movie, by the way, he's an ex-Special Forces. Not a spoiler, because they talked about this in interviews. This Alfred is an ex-Special Forces like he is on Gotham, and so he's giving him advice from a former wartime military guy point of view. So he was, I think, British SAS is what he was. So the point is that he gives him advice. Tactical advice, which is like he was in the animated series, which is what I love about this whole direction they're taking. Alfred's looking at him and saying, and I'm not spoiling because I don't really have any extra knowledge. I'm going by the trailers. So again, this isn't spoilers. He says to him, he's not our enemy, and you can't win this fight. And Bruce Wayne says something along the lines of, paraphrasing again, he has the power to destroy the world, and if there's even a 1% chance that you're wrong, we have to take that as an absolute fact, and we must destroy him. Something along those lines.
Right, so basically Batman was scared, and he wanted to take down Superman.
He's not being scared.
He's lost too many people, he's not scared.
He's scared. He's totally scared. Then why would he want to take down Superman when Superman was trying to save people and save the world?
He had a 9/11 trauma in the beginning of the movie.
No. He had a trauma when his parents were killed in front of him.
Go ahead, Chell. What were you going to say?
It's not. He's scared, Magnum. That's not the.
He's not scared. He's like Daredevil. He's the.
Then why is he gathering the masses against Superman?
He's tired of losing people, and he thinks that
he's not gathering anybody. He's just taking it upon himself.
Yep.
There's still two factions of people who are divided about Superman. One people worship him as a freaking god.
Yeah, you see that in the trailer too.
And I thought that's what it was about. Was that he let that like hero worship and all that get to his head, and that's what the whole idea was.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That Superman had to be taken down a peg because he started acting like he thought he was a god.
But that was Batman's perspective because Batman was not getting the attention.
Shell just made me think of something that I want to mention this. Now, what I'm about to say, I have to keep myself in check because I get a little emotional when I talk about it. Okay, so I know I'm not the only one in this room who has lost a father. So I want to point this out that for me, when I saw the trailer, the last one they put out, and I posted it on Facebook, for me, what makes me want to see this movie now is more not just the fanboy aspect of wanting to see those two do their thing. And it's not even anymore just about how I think it's going to be awesome to see Wonder Woman represented on the big screen. This is now more personal for me. It could even not be Batman or Superman. What makes this more personal for me now is I lost my father to cancer. And Batman and Superman, I thought about this. They have one thing in common. And I think personally, and this is not a spoiler because I'm only guessing, I think that if they're smart, what's going to help them make nice is they have one connecting thread. They both lost their fathers. And it affected them.
Well,
yeah, I've been looking.
Yeah, I'm going to see it as well. I'm looking forward to the movie.
I got carried away. You're right. This is why I brought up this. So, let's talk about Xena. All right.
Xena?
Yes. The Warrior Princess is returning. NBC, a little mixed on my opinion because they did cancel Constantine, but supposedly it's coming back. And
it was a bad run.
I loved Xena, and it's one of my favorite shows.
No, it was Constantine was a bad run.
Yeah, but NBC, they're a little more credible than...
Loved the comics, hated the show.
All right, fair enough.
It was bad acting.
Yeah, good comics.
There's a lot of arguments. I only watched the pilot. A lot of people are so passionate. They're kind of like they are with Firefly. Bring it back. And then they did, kind of, on Arrow. But the thing is that NBC...
They brought back Firefly on Arrow?
No. I'm talking about Constantine. They brought it back because the fans, including Stephen Amell, who plays Arrow, he himself went on Twitter and said, put him on CW. I support this. And then all of a sudden he's there. So obviously he had some kind of an influence. The point I'm trying to make is Xena's coming back. NBC is handling it. And they also have come right... Not only is she coming back, and she's not being played by Lucy Lawless, it's going to be a new actress. They're going to reimagine it, which is... It might work, because it worked for Battlestar Galactica. However, they are now saying, not only is she coming back, but we're not going to play around, because she's gay. What do you guys think?
Good.
About damn time.
Oh, I don't care as long as it's a Xena.
She was
the original
in the original.
She was bi.
Yeah, I don't see why they need to point it out. I mean,
that's a good point.
It almost seems like they're trying to sell it that she's gay, like to make it like a, I don't know, like
that's
a selling point that they're making it gay, and that's ridiculous because everybody knew that there was something going on with her and Gabrielle.
She wasn't gay in the show. She slept with guys and girls.
No, she was gay.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why does it matter who anybody has sex with?
That's a great point.
Because we're curious people. That's why.
Everyone deserves to be loved.
And publicly.
I think that they're trying to sell it as a show to show that they're progressive. I think that they're trying to commercialize on, people being more open now, and I think that that's a ridiculous selling point.
You make a good point. I agree with that. I think that they didn't have to. It's almost like they're doing this to catch attention.
Yes.
More like to catch up. More like
see, the thing was, back when it happened, when the show came out, the whole subtext was, back then, it wasn't...
I brought this up before. Where were all of you during the Buffy years? That's where
I was around.
Well, and that's the thing. Buffy didn't sell their show. They didn't advertise the show on Tara and Willow having a lesbian.
No, they didn't. And they had it in. They had it in.
They just made it a thing. They just made it a part of the show. But that's the thing.
I don't think anybody in today's society, or okay, there would be people, but I don't think most people would care or bat an eyelash to the fact that they're gay on the show. But why did there have to be all this
time, Shell. It wasn't the time.
No,
that's
talking about now.
Revolutionary.
I get that,
Zeb. My point is, why do they need to advertise it? Why do they need to advertise it?
They're trying to appeal to a demographic. They're being like politicians, basically. You know what I'm saying? They're like saying, let's see if we can attract this... Because they know that lesbians... Absolute respect to lesbians, I'm just saying. They know how passionate they were about Xena. So it's almost like they're saying, by the way, guys... Because we want high numbers when we bring Xena back, we're letting you know she's a lesbian. Like they're trying to make a thing to appeal to that demographic. At least that's my opinion.
And that's selling out. That's ridiculous.
Look at it from the studio's point of view. If you want to ensure that you're going to start out of the gate really strong, wouldn't you consider doing something like that? It may seem like a... So
you're saying that they're so unconfident in their product that they have to go to use cheap gimmicks like that to
That's
sell it?
A good point.
I don't know if they're not competent with it. It
Insecure.
could just be... It might just be something from the marketing end.
Yeah.
It's just a decision they made to say something that was openly basically decided by the studio before when they moved forward with the storyline. They decided to make her openly gay now. She was basically quote unquote bi whatever, but I don't think it's a marketing decision, because frankly, if it's a marketing decision, in the gay community, the people who have the buying power are gay males, not gay females. If lesbians had buying power, the WNBA would actually be able to support itself and not be supported by the NBA financially, by the way.
That's absolutely marketed to straight males.
You think the WNBA is marketed to straight males? That is completely false.
The fact that Xena is as openly gay now.
No.
I think it was very bold, and I wasn't expecting it. I mean,
why do you feel it's bold?
Because they're now cornering this situation. They can't have her have relations if they're going. Well, they can, but they're now saying that this is the problem they're going to run into. Okay, I'm not trying to start a whole subject about the issue itself, but here's my opinion of how they box themselves into a corner. All right? So you're telling everybody that Xena, who used to be openly, in my opinion, bisexual, because she slept with Hercules, she slept with other men. She told this one man that she loved him. She had a child with the guy. She's been back and forth. She just sleeps with whoever she cares about. She doesn't care if it's a guy or has a penis or whatever. However, if you're going to make a statement, she's gay, you're now putting yourself in a dangerous position, in my opinion, because if she ends up sleeping with a guy, they're now going to say, but was she gay? Or what kind of a statement does that make? So now they've got a limitation on the character. That's what I'm saying.
I still agree with Shell. Why does it even matter?
It doesn't, but the fact that they made a statement and said she is gay.
They implied it back in the 1990s.
No, I know that. But they implied there was a What I'm trying to say is they made a statement. They said she's gay. They didn't say that they're not going to... They didn't say something like... They could have said it differently. They could have said, we're not going to hide anything. She sleeps with whoever, she loves whoever. They made a choice. They said she's gay. So I think that, in my opinion, and this is nothing against the gay community at all, but I think for the show, it puts them in a position where they have to be careful now going forward. Because if they're going to make her gay, make her gay. If you make her even sleep with a man after this, you're now opening up another whole can of worms that is going to cause Twitter reactions.
I agree with George.
It's going to cause
I agree with George.
Controversy. It's almost reverse controversy. It's an inverted position. And I think they need to be very careful now that they made this decision to make this stance and say she's gay. Just say we're not going to shy away from her relationship choices. Say something like that. It could have been so much more well received if they end up doing something where she's in love with a guy one episode and she's in love with a girl the next. But by saying she's gay, you're making a choice.
I do agree with that. I just don't think they needed to say anything at all.
Actually, and I agree with you. That's kind of what I'm hitting at. Why even... You could have said something, but if you had to make a statement...
They were going to ask anyway, Show.
Again, they're appealing to a demographic. They're saying we want high numbers on that first episode, so that they can sell it to the shareholders.
I don't think they are, because lesbians are not known for high numbers. Sorry.
We don't. I don't know about that. Well, I mean, maybe you've done the research, and I could be wrong. I'm just going by.
You know why Ellen is popular? Because suburban straight females that are married watch Ellen. That is why
Ellen's popular because she's talented and she's smart.
No. Her major number one audience is suburban straight females. Women in general.
That's probably because of her time slot.
That could be true.
Most people who are home during that time.
Her show is based around common subjects. She has nothing to do with her sexuality. She supports her sexuality on her show, but she does not push it in her face.
She doesn't. But when what's his face from CNN there, Bill O'Reilly.
That's not wrong. Wrong.
Hold on. Do you remember the time that he defended her when the JCPenney 1 million moms or whatever were going after Ellen to have her removed? She usually Bill O'Reilly's an ass, but he defended her, and Helen on her show used that platform to actually kind of clap out to him because he did that. Now, it wasn't a gay agenda, but he was personally protecting or defending a position, and he was saying something that was worthy of talking about. So it's not that she's using an agenda, but she did address it when it came up at the time.
Yes, because it had something to do with her personally.
That's what I mean. Yep.
And it did affect her. But she doesn't use it as an agenda or a platform or anything. The difference between her and Rosie's show, which was actually the same successful time slot, not as successful, but Rosie did use it as a club.
That's you know what?
I remember seeing both shows together.
Now that I think about it, Rosie, yeah, all right. So we talked about Xena. I mean, look, I'm just happy that Xena's coming back. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, or 3 maybe. I think pretty much me, Shell, Anthony, Ross. I don't recall if we ever talked about this. Did you watch Xena? Were you a fan?
When it was on back in the day, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I was an adolescent kid. Of course, I watched Xena.
I know Shell and Anthony did. What about you? Well, obviously, Zeb, I can tell that you watched it.
I did a little bit, not so much.
I absolutely love the show. Here's my only fear for the show. All right, switching off of the whole the lesbian topic about in talking about Xena in general. My fear for the show is, from what I've read, NBC intends this to be a more. It's not your father's Xena or your mother's Xena. It's like I think they're gonna use the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. I don't know. She kind of looks like Xena in a way, but I think they're going to make it a serious show, and I think that is it's risky, because Xena was popular because one week they would have an episode that was very serious and addressed certain things, and then the next week they would just go off the marker and they were not afraid to play around with the tone of the show. They would have a joke episode, characters like Joxer and people like that, or Bruce Campbell playing Octiculus. I think that's how you pronounce it. But you know what I mean? They would have like a funny episode, and then they wouldn't be afraid to totally change it up. But if NBC's doing a completely serious version of Xena, I don't know. I think they should have just called it something else. But I'm going to open my mind. Keep my eyes.
You know why? You want to know why? In 3 words, Game of Thrones. That's why.
That could be right. You got a good point. I'll give you that. That could be the reason that the marketing people are going, yes, let's use a catchy, popular character name and use that to launch a new show so that people have recognition.
That's why you're going to see serious fantasy overtoned shows out now.
And they're going to also capture.
That's why Reign is basically CW's version of Game of Thrones. That's why you have Reign. That's why you have other
Never heard of that
versions. Show. That's why you have other versions of serious alternate.
It's the
medieval.
It's the Law and Order syndrome, is what I call it.
Yeah, basically.
Popular. They're too afraid that the shareholders are too afraid to try something new, so you end up getting spin-off after spin-off, and you use that as a title, and then that makes them go, okay, we're happy now. We'll give you $10 million for the season because.
So Xena was an older property. They probably saw it as a potential to pick it up. They're going to rework the character, and they're probably going to. You don't be surprised to see similar themes as Game of Thrones. Don't be surprised. As if Xena comes back as a totally different character with a bit more grander scale of things. I'm predicting it now.
What do you think, Anthony?
I think this. I just hope the reboot is just as good as the original. That's it.
That's
all I'm asking
fair statement. All right. Before we move on to another subject, anybody else got something they want to offer about the Xena topic?
Nope.
I haven't really read anything beyond the articles that mentioned her sexuality. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
Fair enough.
Same.
All right. So, there's another topic I was going to bring up, and we've gone back and forth about Batman v Superman. Oh, by the way, I told you guys in before the show started, and I'm going to tell you now. I was offered an opportunity by somebody who's from the local newspaper. They actually follows my show, which not just this one. They like Bat Radio. They contacted me. They reached out to me, and I was very happy to hear this. They want to give me a ticket to go see Batman v Superman this weekend because they think I should review it. They think I should, and they had extra tickets because of they got press privileges or whatever. So that made me happy. That was one of the nicest things that has ever happened to me recently. And it also made me feel good that they pay attention to the show. So, that's good. But yeah, so I'm going to be able to give an honest feedback after this weekend. Like Ross, you were talking about doing a new segment next week or a week after, whatever, after we've all had the chance to hopefully all seen it. I know there's some catch-up time. Some of us might not be able to see it right away. That's fine. But I think it's exciting. I can't wait. So I'm hopefully going to get to see it this weekend. And I've been offered a ride, too, to the movie. And one of the things I keep hearing and we should probably save this for after the thing, but I keep hearing this opinion. I'm going to just bring it up real quick. I keep hearing that the major... Well, you guys brought up that there's other things you're hearing that are bad about the movie, but Lex Luthor, Jesse Eisenberg, is it worth even talking about? I don't know. Anthony, you have brought up several other reasons you've read about, but I heard that he's...
Wait till the movie comes out.
All right. We'll skip.
Nothing can be worse than Green Lantern. I fell asleep in the movie.
Oh yeah, the one with
So-
Ryan Reynolds.
Daredevil
that one
was
Hulk. Daredevil was worse, and also that one Hulk with
sadly.
that
The
one
worst
Hulk
of all.
was really bad.
The worst of
all.
all.
Oh, what was his name? Yang Lee. Was that guy's name? That Hulk. The first one.
The first Hulk was
no.
so...
I'm sorry. The first Hulk was still better than Green Lantern, because I did not fall asleep in the
That's a tough
first
one.
Hulk.
Nothing was worse
so
than
bad.
Halle Berry's
Daredevil.
Catwoman.
Oh my
no,
God,
I
that
don't
was
even
so
count
bad,
Halle Berry
too.
Catwoman in a superhero. I mean, she looked good in the uniform, and
Although I did like seeing her jumping around in the catsuit.
I know. And Shaw, you can feel free to go.
So you're saying that Michelle Pfeiffer was better than Halle Berry?
No,
Infinitely better.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
But Halle Berry is an Oscar winner. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Not for Catwoman.
Not as Catwoman as the DC Catwoman. I'm just saying that it wasn't killing my eyes. That's all I'm saying.
Ben Affleck
Once
is
an
Oscar
Oscar winner.
too.
Who?
Ben Affleck
Oh
is
yeah. Oh,
actually
that's a fair counter
than,
argument. Yeah. Hey, I'm not even gay.
And he was
I'll admit
awful at Daredevil.
That's true. The Daredevil movie was horrible, but the Daredevil Netflix series is amazing.
I have not seen the second series yet.
I won't.
You better hurry up before Saturday.
All right, so I'm going to say
that's
this.
fine.
I should have added this to the
I
show
will
notes,
not
but
be
you know
here
what?
for
You
that
organically opened up the. I'll talk about it.
Well, we can't spoil it yet.
Not yet. Not spoilers. Overall,
because I'm sure not a lot of people watched it.
Yep. You have to binge watch it. I'm going to give an overall impression. I'm not going to spoil it.
Well, who here has watched
George,
it so far?
No, George.
Well, I'm not. I'm just saying.
I've seen it. I like it. That's all I'm going to say.
What I would like
through.
is to hear George's impressions now that he's finally watched Jessica Jones.
Yeah, okay. Can we talk? All right, we'll talk about, I'll tell you what. Here's the deal. We'll talk about Daredevil Season 2 next episode. This time, because everybody's mostly seen it, except maybe Ross. I don't know about Raul. But you have been waiting for me to catch up on Jessica Jones. So that's what I'll focus on for right now. So Jessica Jones was... I loved it. I am so... that movie, the series, my girlfriend and I watched it together. We watched from episode 4 all the way to, I think it's 13. I can't remember if it's 12 or 13. But, God damn. I mean, seriously, the people who hate on it kind of piss me off. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. But when your opinion's wrong, I don't know.
Well, opinions can't be wrong. They can just be ill-informed.
I know. I'm being sarcastic.
They can be ill-informed, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. But Jessica Jones was true to the comic. And if you're gonna watch it...
I'm not familiar with Jessica Jones, the
comic.
I am.
See,
and I'm not familiar with the. I haven't seen the series, so you have to inform me a little bit. Maybe inform some of our viewers.
All right, I have talked about it in at least 2 episodes, but Jessica Jones is. This is not a spoiler because they haven't done it, and whether they will or not, we don't know. So I'm going to say it anyways. In the comics, she ends up marrying Luke Cage, and she has a child with him, and this is a big deal in the comics. They all end up joining the Defenders, okay? This is what they're leading up to in the Netflix series. It's not a spoiler. They've announced this a long time ago. Every series you're seeing happen on Netflix is leading up to a miniature microcosm. It's a version of how they led up to the Avengers in the big screen. They're leading up to the Defenders. Now, if they were actually being accurate, they would add Doctor Strange, but he's been pulled to the big screen. But
thank God.
Well, yeah, I agree.
To be played by Cumberbatch.
Exactly. However, in the group, there's another group besides the Avengers, and it's called the Defenders. If they really are smart, they will add the character of Valkyrie, because she's Thor's sort of other love interest in
She's
the comics.
she's Thor's side piece.
She's also been his lover in many versions too, because she was the Brunhilde and he was in another life the Siegfried, and so the Valkyrie, I think, should be added to the Netflix. Or I don't know if they're going to either do like the Punisher and put her into one of the series. I would love to
see a Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. I talked about him a couple episodes ago. I did mention him because Shell brought up
one of my favorite unloved characters in
Shell brought up Blade.
No. Well, but Blade is popular, but I don't
listen.
Like
let me finish, Raul. The reason I'm bringing up Blade.
Oh, so somebody interrupts you.
I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere that you trust me will want to hear. This is why I'm trying to help you. I'm helping you more than myself. So Shell brought up. I know what you're saying. Shell brought up Blade a few. I think it was the first episode, and I mentioned Moon Knight, and I said that they were part of the same supernatural subgenre within Marvel. Mm-hmm. And Moon Knight was mentioned on the Blade TV show. He didn't actually end up showing up because the show got canceled. It was on TNT. You might have seen it. I don't know, but he used to interact with Blade, and he's a supernatural character. He's an awesome character. I think he should be in. You know how they did the Punisher? You know how they put the Punisher in this new season of Daredevil, but they didn't actually give him his own show or haven't announced one yet. But he's there. So I think what they should do, and this is just an opinion, I think they should, because Moon Knight was part of the Defenders, I think that they should throw him into one of the shows, whether it's Luke Cage or one of the ones coming up, without necessarily giving him his own show, unless the fans all freak out about it, because he's a worthy character. Kind of like
I think it would be cool. It would be the poor man's mystical character for the Defender.
Yeah, that's good. That's a fair. Well, it would also make up for the lack of Doctor Strange, in my opinion.
Bingo.
Well, but these, at least right now, these ones are all like associated around Hell's Kitchen. Is his story located there as well?
Moon Knight has gone to Hell's Kitchen. Yes, he was part of the Defenders, and that was mostly around Hell's Kitchen. So yes, mostly.
He basically was a millionaire. He was like imagine erstwhile Batman with no home base.
And with mystical powers and an Egyptian mythos tie-in, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, Moon Knight was great. He also, there's a lot of characters that are part of the Defenders. I'm curious as to how many they're going to toss in there when they reach that stage, because we know that Luke Cage has been greenlit. They're going to do that next. They've been talking about...
I'm looking forward to that. They cast a really good guy as Luke Cage.
Yeah, they
did. There was a great comic book. There was a great comic book series in the 80s with great art. Exploring his background, Moon Knight. Wonderful, wonderful series.
Oh, here's a little trivia, because you guys know who the Night Nurse is, right? She's been on Daredevil Season 1 and Jessica Jones as Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson, yeah.
In the comics, when Stan Lee created the Night Nurse, she actually was meant to, and it was her character's name, it was actually implied that it was the actual actress being Night Nurse, Linda Carter. Stanley was such a fan of Linda Carter that he had the artist be instructed that I want you to use the likeness of Linda Carter and make the character look like Linda Carter, and then we're going to imply that it is Linda Carter and that she's the Night Nurse. It was sort of an inside joke. Just a little trivia.
Back to Jessica Jones, the casting in general was spot on for everybody.
Yes,
Jessica, she just radiated damage in every scene.
You just actually emphasized one of the only complaints on one of my threads on Facebook where I was talking about Jessica Jones. One of my friends said I hated her, crappy attitude. So she's not going to be. The show's not going to appeal to everyone for many reasons. The character is meant to be that way because she's a survivor, like Anthony and Shell both agreed a few episodes ago. She's a survivor of a rape type situation. She's not meant to be Little Miss Sunshine. That's the character. And by the end, I can spoil this now because it's been out for so long. By the end of the season, she is dealing with the fact that the public sees her as a hero and she doesn't want that job. And I love that. I can't wait to see what they do in season 2, or in Luke Cage, because I'm sure she'll be in that too.
Can I drop some knowledge?
Go ahead. You're always welcome to drop some knowledge.
Thank you. I actually want to go back. I actually want to go back to the Punisher.
Okay.
And just a few drops of knowledge for all of you. So the Punisher's real name is not Frank Castle. Did you know that?
I didn't.
His real name is Francis Castiglione.
Okay.
That was his real name. He actually wanted to be a priest. So
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Now the Punisher was originally an enemy of Spider-Man.
Yes, I have that comment.
So a lot of people know that, right? Now check this out. The Punisher once killed the entire Marvel universe.
What?
He was the original. When he appeared on the scene, he was the original Deadpool. He was everywhere.
Oh, okay.
Right. So in a single comic, the Punisher kills the Marvel universe. So it wasn't very well received by the fans. So
it was an alternate universe story, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Was it a what if?
Just kidding. Remember before I said, "Oh, we killed so and so." Just kidding.
Marvel had a line called "The What If." It was alternate universe stories. Like, for example, Red Sonja ended up marrying Wolverine after he killed Conan.
What if Wolverine picked up the hammer?
Or what if Spider-Man had a daughter?
Or he did in an alternate universe, Spider-Girl.
Yeah, that's why it came about.
I love that comic.
Also, the What If comic was so popular, they decided to run with it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, so also the Punisher was actually going to be called the Assassin. That was the original. The Assassin.
I like I said, because I didn't think about this, because we decided to do this episode at the last second, I was going to talk or dedicate more time to season 2, but maybe it's, in hindsight, maybe it's reflecting back, maybe it's better because it gives Shell more time, and possibly Ross, and everybody catch up a little bit before we talk about that season. Maybe you guys will have seen it. Now, don't feel pressured to do so, but if you do, maybe it'll make it more interesting.
I would like to drop one last fact of knowledge on all of you.
Too bad, Raul.
Now, the Punisher was given plastic surgery to become black.
I remember. I have that comic too. That was awesome.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, so it was during a run in prison. The Punisher's arch enemy, Jigsaw, cuts up the Punisher's face really bad, so it required medical attention. He wanted to be unrecognizable by his enemies, so the doctor gave him the reverse Michael Jackson.
and he teamed up with Luke Cage.
Yeah, he did team up with Luke Cage. That is correct.
Here's another trivia about the Punisher that I put on my Facebook once that kind of haunted me, because Marvel does some dark. You know what's funny? They're more light on the screen, but in the comics, they're darker than DC. That's the kind of the contrast, which is interesting. In the comics, Marvel does some gross stuff. So there was an episode, or issue, not episode. There was an issue of the Punisher about I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, where he ended up, like all comics, it didn't stick. He didn't stay dead. He turned into Wolverine has a son called Daken. He's basically a bad guy. He had his...
Oh, it's a stupid storyline. I don't like it.
Yeah, but he ended up... the Punisher got in a fight with Daken in this one spot. And in the middle of the fight, Daken
Daken is German for small cock.
Okay. Well, anyways, he dismembered him. He cut off that area, too. It's one of the things that they actually created a panel for to show you that. You didn't see the actual, but you got the idea. And before he got done with him, he had mutilated him, and then his final act was with his claws, he beheaded the Punisher. And some creatures, I forget their names, they came out and found all of his body parts, and they turned him into Frankencastle, is what they were trying to say. They treated him like a Frankenstein monster for a while. Now, somewhere along the line, some supernatural entity, being, character, I don't know, I don't remember the details, they brought him back to life, because, like I said, these things don't stick in the comics. But I never forgot how utterly disgusting this issue was with how they detailed how Daken ripped him apart and then beheaded him. It was pretty gross, and DC does gross things too, but I don't think a lot of people realize how, when what you're seeing on the screen is not even close. Even the R-rated Batman v Superman when it comes out. Anyways, yeah. So we could talk about this all day, but I think I'm going to wrap up, because I think there's a lot more to talk about in another episode. Plus, I think we've gone over the time that we set aside for this.
And we barely touched on Jessica Jones at all.
Any final thoughts on Jessica Jones? Because I'm just going to say I was impressed.
We're going to have to talk a lot more about it in a future episode.
All right. Fair enough.
I agree with that.
All right.
Yeah, I could talk all day about Jessica Jones.
We didn't even mention Kilgrave.
Oh, God. David Tennant. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. We'll add that to the list for things to talk. Maybe tomorrow, because we're doing a separate thing we're doing. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. If any of you are able to join me when I talk to our guests. So, everybody, thank you for joining me yet again. You know, you guys have a good rest of your night. And for the audience, we will talk to you next time. All right. Well, this is an extra segment we're doing this week's Super Geeks because we wanted to devote second half of this special episode to a guest I wanted to bring on and talk to. His name is John Hoagland. John, where can people find you on social media?
Hello. Right, I have my own website called Vanishing Point. You can find that at vanishingpoint.biz, and I'm also on Facebook as well.
All right, and also joining us today is Will. Will, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter. That's at Intrinsicus. That's Intrinsic with a US on the end. Oops, excuse me.
All right. So this is how I met John, and then I'll let him carry on the rest of explaining about himself. I do 3D art and things for other shows and stuff I do, and I've done graphic novels and things. And I've been using programs called Poser's a popular one, and that's good for rendering, especially people. And then you can do animations in it too. And then I've also been using primarily Daz Studio, and a lot of these assets are cross-compatible with each other. One can be imported into the other and vice versa. So I stumbled upon John's site once, and he has a lot of free assets that we'll give a shout out to Richard. Is it Duda or Dutta?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Duda. Okay, Richard Duda is a great modeler who works with John, and I grabbed a lot of assets and used them because there's a lot of a good free section. And he also him and Richard provide a lot of sets for different things I've used, and that's how I met him, and we got to know each other, and I want to give him. He's also a fan of all the stuff we're talking about, so I figured I'd invite him on to tell us a little bit more about what he does and what he likes, and then we'll go on to a couple topics. So take it away, John.
Sure. Okay. Well, like George said, I run a site selling digital models, specializing mostly in science fiction and cars and trucks and aircraft. Pretty much everything you would need to build your own digital scene or animation. And my customers do pretty much what George does. They have a scene in mind or their own graphic novel, and then they load up the models, pose and position them, and then add all the little dialogue and thought balloons and make their own graphic novel.
And animations too. Where would you recommend people start if they're interested in learning how to do all this stuff? I know I would say like Daz. Was it Daz.com or
Daz3D.com?
Right, and
that's where you can get the human figures.
And Poser is the other one.
Right, and then there's Daz Studio, which is the actual rendering and posing software, and of course there's also Poser itself.
Where did you learn how to do all this, John? Did you go to school for it?
Well, actually, I taught myself both computer programming and computer graphics, and just worked on increasing my skills. Picked up a bunch of modeling programs back about 15 years ago. Read a lot of books, followed some online tutorials, and taught myself how to make models.
It's pretty much what I did. I did go back to school for a little while for it, but yeah, they're great programs, and they're easy to self-teach, at least that's my opinion. And they're cross-compatible with things like Blender. You can import things like Blender models and Bryce and, all kinds of things.
Right, exactly. So you can make a model in one program and bring it into the others and add textures and, again, position it and add special effects.
All right. And anybody got any questions for John?
Yeah, I do. This is Anthony. So, John, I noticed that you're the president of Vanishing Point Incorporated. So, what inspired you to create this company?
Right. So way back when I started I started the company about 10 years ago. Before then, I had just been a merchant selling on different sites. Don't know if I should name them or not, but let's just say there were some big poser community sites. And I decided to go off on my own and create my own website and my own company. So I started with a couple other colleagues who made models and textures. We formed the website, uploaded our first bunch of models, and then as time went on, other merchants started joining us and selling their own models, and we just kind of grew from there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now I know that you are the president, but you're also the lead developer and programmer. So what background or what knowledge do you have in order to pursue this?
Right. So I also programmed the site itself, and I taught myself programming, and I also took some classes in it. Basically learning going from the Visual Basic language and the HTML website programming language, and built the website myself. So it's a combination of knowing the computer skills and the graphic arts skills.
Right. And what does poser format mean?
What do you mean?
You know, it says that you were the first person to make Star Wars vehicles in poser format.
Oh, right. Okay. Before then, people would make it for the higher end programs such as Lightwave and 3D Studio Max.
Right.
But those formats can't really be imported into Poser. They can, but it takes a lot of work, and you have to go through a long, involved import
You have to do
process.
workarounds just to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I did was create first, it's called OBJ file. I created that, and then within Poser, you can rig the model with moving parts. So, for example, the Imperial Walker model has legs that can be posed and even animated so that it's walking.
Yep.
And that's in native Poser format, so there's no importing. You just load it straight from the library within Poser, add it to your scene, and then you can start working with it.
One thing I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. I thought you were done. I think this is an important thing. You guys just segued off of this. The difference also between Poser and Daz Studio. Daz based their program off of Poser and in order to compete. Now, one thing that they did was they made their Daz Studio free, and they make their money with the theory that you're going to pay for the little assets that you're going to buy off the site because you have the main program, which would normally cost a couple to $300. Poser, I don't believe, has done a free version yet, but they're basically the same type of program, very compatible with one another to more or less degrees. But yeah, so if people want to try it without spending money, I would recommend Daz Studio. But if you want to spend a few bucks, I think Poser's a little bit superior. What's your opinion on that, John?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right, because Poser is now version, I forget, maybe even up
7.
No, I think they're either 11 or 12.
Oh, okay.
So it's been in development now for maybe 10 or 15 years, where Daz is on version 3 or 4. It hasn't been around as long, but like you said, they are learning from Poser itself to try to make or have as many features.
This will... go ahead, John.
So Poser is a little smoother in some areas, but then Daz Studios kind of skipped ahead in different areas.
Daz, just a quick mention for... I know some of the listeners and friends of ours might be involved and use Second Life. Daz actually bought out Second Life and teach pro classes to learn how to do their 3D program in virtual classes on Second Life. Just a little interesting. Wow. Yeah, I thought that was kind of clever because it's a way to market people to learn the tools.
So Linden Labs owns Daz?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Well, no, the other way around. Daz owns them.
Really?
Daz is kind of on their way to being like they're trying to buy everybody. You know, we had that discussion, John, when they bought Runtime DNA.
Right, that was just a few weeks ago.
I don't know if Daz still does. Last I had known, when I was going to school for it, my teacher was talking about how you can go in there and learn it, and they had the classes. It's been a few years, so it could have changed hands again. I'm not sure. I'm not up to date on that information. But I know that they had they've absorbed a lot of other companies. And yeah, so if people want to learn it for free and how to do this, and just teach yourself or take classes or read the instruction videos that they make, there's a way to do that without spending hardly a dime. There's lots of free assets such as on your site, which I love about the fact that you have great products to offer, and then you can get extra add-ons for like textures of bridge sets and things like that for, let's just say, Star Trek bridges, and you can purchase, and they're not very expensive at all. That's what I love about the market. All right.
That's right, and all those Star Wars models are free as well.
Yep.
So, John, I want to ask you another question. From looking at your website, your company seems to be international. And what I mean by that is your developers and model makers, you have 2 people from the United States in Ohio and Hawaii. How did you get in touch with the other people around the world?
Right. Again, basically since the internet is international, I started in the different poser community websites just talking to people and saying, hey, you make a good model, can we work together on a project? Or they would send me an email and say, hey, can I help you out with a texture or an add-on? And then it just kind of grew from there.
And so now you have a team of approximately 13 people that you work with?
Yeah, 13 to 15 people, yeah.
Yeah, so how's that working out for you?
Working out nicely. So what happens is if I have a customer who needs a specific model made, I have developers who can make the science fiction sets, other people who can make cars, other people who can make clothing. So basically the entire skill set.
Yeah, Richard does great people models and Star Wars vehicles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. And again, he also makes the great science fiction sets based on the Star Trek.
I would like to ask a question. Where did you begin this project? You didn't begin with a big company and the 13 people, but
Right.
where did you start yourself? Where was the inspiration? Where did you start learning? That sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, I think the inspiration was that, again, back years ago when I was first starting in the poser community, I was looking around to see what was available, and I saw, for example, that there weren't any good Star Wars models, so I started making things that I would want to use myself. So it was first the Star Wars models, and then I started making some helicopter models because no one else was making them at the time.
Yeah, you get the Apache I used that in a graphic novel once.
Right, yeah.
That's a great model, the Black Hawk.
And one of my first helicopters was a Bell 222 helicopter, which
Airwolf,
I released. Yeah, which I released a free Airwolf add-on.
Now, as a layperson, listen, without knowledge of this, what is a poser, and what can I do with these models?
I mean, like George was saying, create your own graphic novel or artwork or your own videos and animations.
Actually, for video games too, some MMOs and video games have used poser or DAZ models.
That's right.
Like to mention Second Life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or IMVU, I believe. No, actually, they use something else, but same idea. There's a lot of games or MMOs or regular video games that have you'll sometimes recognize the style of the model with certain named models, such as Victoria and their series, and Michael and the girl and things. Those are from DAZ. Just a few examples. There's signature model types that companies will buy and use for professional games, because you have an open-end license or whatever it's called, the one that lets you as long as you don't resell the model, you can use it to make money.
Creative Commons?
Yeah, I can't remember the term. You know what term I'm talking about, right, John?
Right, yeah.
So, like, for example, if I wanted to make a comic with this stuff and it wasn't an IP like Star Trek and it was original, I can put them on websites that people have and charge money for them. And I'm allowed to do that. What I'm not allowed to do is resell the actual model itself or assets.
So tell us about your services. I know you have military models, clothing models, architecture, and several other things. So tell us about that and how you developed it.
Right, so those services are for custom-made models. So when somebody comes along and says that they need a specific set or car or building, they would hire me to make it for them.
Are you restricted? All right, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, based on that what you just answered, are you restricted by IP licenses? Like, if someone wanted you to make Darth Maul, do you have to give it away, or can you use Darth Maul even though it's Star Wars and make money off of him?
Well, it depends on the request. If a customer is paying me to make the model for him, then yes, I would make it for him, and then it would be up to him to get any legal licenses to use it in his projects.
Okay, that makes sense. Anybody else have any questions?
Well, in that regard, if you're making something that's licensed by another company, for instance, Disney or Star Wars or whatever, and you're just making it for that person, I mean, do you need to have legal requirements? Say, look, I'm just making it for you. From then on, it's your responsibility what you do with it. How would they make sure that they wouldn't come after you if you were violating some licensing agreements in that regard?
Right, because at that point, the customer would own, I wouldn't say they would own their side of the rights, meaning I'm only the vendor for them, and I'm not going to sell the model myself. So then, however they use it falls on them.
Okay.
I do know, based on what you just said, there was an issue that came up that the court sided with. There's a site called Renderosity.com. You were being careful not to name. I'm sure you would think. Well, they had an issue happen once where people were making a lot of models that look like Angelina Jolie. Well, what the courts decided is you can do that, and yes, you can make money off it, as long because there are people that look like actors, and like the people who do the look-alike stuff. Someone might happen to look like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie. But what make it a copyright issue, they decided, is how you name the model that you're selling on the vendor as a vendor. If you say it's Angelina Jolie, you're in trouble. But if you make she was in the movie Wanted, Wanted Girl, Bullet Girl, or something like that, and it just happens to look just like that character from the movie, you're allowed to do that as long as you don't say it's Angelina Jolie or the character's name.
Well, there was an issue with Spawn a number of years back in the 90s, where there was a character he named after a hockey player, and he created after a hockey player, the likeness and everything. And he had gone on interviews and said, yes, this is basically a rough and tough hockey player. I made a character over, and the character was a mobster. The actual player took offense to it because he saw him do horrific things in the comic book and sued the Spawn creator for infringement on his character. Now, I think that this would be in the same realm of possibilities.
Copyright has to be based on points of similarity. That's what they call it. So, if they say, for example, I've seen a lawsuit on a Wonder Woman. Someone made an adult Wonder Woman. They use poser actually. Somebody does things that puts her in sexual situations, and they make money off of it. Well, he was
and
talking
that's only
about,
DC, damn it.
Well, it's all of them. But what he said was he got a cease and desist letter from DC. They didn't want to do legal action. They gave him a chance to fix it himself. What they said is, you're misrepresenting the character, and you have too many points of similarity. If you want us to back off, you cannot have a golden lasso, the Star Spangled Suit, or the tiara. If you change that, she can be an Amazon. She can be similar to Wonder Woman. You just can't use the same name, and those are her points of similarity that make her too much like their character that they're going to be basically misrepresenting, which is the tiara with the star on it, the lasso, and the red, white, and blue.
Right. They don't own the copyright to Amazon. Amazon
right.
Is
exactly.
a legendary.
But copyright
yet.
Really, yeah. They look at what they call points of similarity. So yeah, that's how courts figure out whether you went too far. And if someone gives you a cease and desist and you comply, they pretty much usually back off.
As long as Brigitte Nielsen is alive, they don't own the rights to Amazon.
This is interesting stuff. Anybody else got a question?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask. I'm unfamiliar with this kind of thing because I'm not a programmer. How long does it take you, or your crew to make the models? Do you give a deadline like weeks, months, and are they animated? I mean, if you just give them a product, can they do other things with the model itself? If you were building a ship, does it actually fire missiles or laser bolts or whatever it is?
It can be,
yes, they can, because that depends on the client's needs. But for example, all of our car models come with wheels that can rotate and steer, and doors and the hood and the trunk that can be opened.
Yep.
So yes, once they load it into software such as Poser or DAZ Studio, they can set up an animation where the doors can open or it drives down the street.
That's pretty cool.
You can even put, when I went back to school for it, we were shown in Lightwave how to do this. It's been a while, but you can even set it so that in the middle of an animation, there's little dials that you can add to rig things into the model. It makes it look like a higher, resource eater. But you can do stuff like make the window, to simulate like windows getting shot. You can suddenly turn the dial in and make it do it in the middle of an animation where suddenly there are bullet holes in cracked window. Mm-hmm. Or dents in the hood of the car, or flames effects that are set. They're put on the car and they're invisible until it's timed sequence, and then all of a sudden the car's on fire. Things like that. It's amazing what you can do.
That is
just the fact that Poser and DAZ Studio are a lot less. Hundreds of dollars less than higher end programs like Lightwave and Studio Max, because they're aimed more for the home user and the hobbyist.
Geez, the Studio Max models themselves are like sometimes hundreds of dollars, where they're like $5 on Renderossi or somewhere else.
Right, and that's basically because of the market, that the Studio Max users have no problem paying $100 or $200 for a model, where again, Renderossi and DAZ 3D aim for the hobbyist market that doesn't have as much money to spend.
DAZ Studio also has a bridge plugin for many of the versions of Photoshop that you can actually import the model right into Photoshop to add different effects and things in post. It's pretty neat. Or change the textures or little details.
So, John, I have a question for you. So, what type of clients are you working for right now?
They vary. Some of our clients are working on their own animations for their clients. So they would come to me for, say, a building model or a car model that they will then incorporate into their own animation that they could be making for their client. Also looking at people making their own presentations. For example, one project was to show how, which one was that again? To show how a medical equipment company would display their equipment inside a hospital setting. So I designed the hospital and put models of their equipment into it. And in that case, they gave me the models for their equipment, but I had to build the hospital model.
Right.
You just reminded me. Do you guys? You're familiar with the killer lady who had the trial, Jodi Arias, who killed her boyfriend?
Mm-hmm.
You know that. I remember that they used in the court thing. They were using Poser. It was an older version, like I think.
Oh wow!
But they used it to recreate what and how she did it by having the model that they recreated of the apartment, the bathroom. They picked a couple of Poser models to represent him and her, and to show how it happened for the evidence for the jury to look at. So It's been used for things like that too.
Oh, I missed that.
I think they also did it with the George Zimmerman trial to show how a recreation of what he had to have done or how it would have gone down.
So tell us about the charitable organizations that you support, that your company supports.
Sure. We support the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum, because actually I grew up in Baltimore. And a few years back, the museum was wrecked by a winter snowstorm that came through, destroyed the roof, and destroyed a lot of the historic train engines that they had in the museum. So they started a fundraising campaign to restore everything. And the museum itself has trains going back to before the Civil War. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's where modern railroading got started in the United States.
You also support UNICEF.
Yes.
How does that work with your company?
That actually came from a couple of developers. Trying to remember when exactly, but they approached me and said, "Hey, this is an organization that I think we should support." So I said, "All right, sure, why not?"
Right, because that company is what, worldwide, right?
Right, yes. So we set it so that I think it was a number of our building models were set so that every time somebody purchased a copy, some of the proceeds would go towards UNICEF.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And then I also made it so that some sales of the train models went back to the museum as well.
So would you look? Oh,
okay.
Go ahead, George.
I was going to ask for you have a lot of good categories on the site, like especially for the free stuff. Like if people want to pick a genre, like say Star Wars, Star Trek, Babylon 5, superheroes, or I think there was one like that. But stuff like that. You've got them all organized. And is there a category that you have not added that you kind of want to when you get the time between you and your colleagues, like a certain genre or type of hero category that hasn't made its way in there yet?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean there are models in those genres that I still want to make. For example, there are a lot more Star Wars ships that can be made, a lot more Babylon 5. Could go back to making more Tron or Doctor Who items. But it's pretty much the categories develop as people request things.
I'll make a request right now. You know what I would love to see? I mean, you guys might have it planned. You get almost everything else for the updated Star Wars stuff. I want to see the cross sword, to be able to customize the cross sword to different colors, like on Rebels, with Kylo Ren there.
I'm sorry, be able to do...
Well, okay. Like on the new episode of Rebels coming up next week, they go to the planet that Kylo Ren actually got his crosssaber. It's Malachor is what it's called. It's from Knights of the Old Republic and Revan. And he actually you see the character Ezra in the trailer activate a green one of those. So I'm just saying, like, if you had that option, well, people could go in and edit the textures anyways. But I think it would be neat to have the cross sword just so that people could play around with it.
Right, yeah, that's a good idea, and that's what I mean. We need to make more Star Wars items.
You got the mask. We're looking for that crossword. It's pretty popular.
So, John, how can people join your development team? So, let's say I'm a model maker or I'm an artist, what would I need? What skills and how would I join?
Right. Well, first, just send me an email. Come to my site, again, vanishingpoint.biz, B-I-Z, and it helps to have a portfolio of some kind where you show off your models or your artwork, and then we can figure out the best project to start on. Whether the person wants to make, say, a Star Wars item and release it for free, or jump right in and make a car or a building that can be sold.
So even writers can join you as well, right?
Possibly, yeah. Don't have that much use for writers, but yeah, we might be looking for people to do things like write better descriptions for the products or even write blog posts.
What about making up original characters and pitching ideas and to have someone else make it, drawing concept art and things like that, and then it goes to the next... Would that be something that might interest you?
That's an idea also, sure.
Because I think that could be a character. You've got original characters on your site.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Any more questions before we tackle our first subject? All right. Well, John, that was very interesting. And like I told you earlier today, you're welcome to join us anytime that you're available at the times we talk in general. So open invitation.
Great. Yeah.
All right. So he had a couple of things he wanted to request that we talk about. That a couple of them are have not so far been talked about in Super Geeks, but it does fall within the Geeks genre. So I'm going to open the doors like I did over the last couple of weeks. Basically, there hasn't been a lot of people talking about this on podcasts around our areas, but a little bit. What did we all think? Because it's okay to talk about it now. What did we all think about Force Awakens? Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and what do we think is going to happen next? Because there's no spoilers. It's just people guessing.
So was Force Awakens a repeat of 1977?
No.
Yep.
It had a lot of tone. Star Wars is known for doing repeated.
Just because it carries on the themes of a previous movie doesn't mean it's a complete retread.
Well,
Let
me
ask you, how many Death Stars have they been in there?
There is
the third one.
There are some valid complaints.
Don't you realize that? Hey, this is not working. Let's try something else.
From what I've heard, they're doing the same thing with the next one. Assuming that some of these leaked informations are out there, there's going to be some similarities to the Empire for the next one. It's sort of like going in the same
that's
order.
not too bad because that was the best movie.
And I wouldn't be shocked if we see Ewoks
Yeah,
return.
but they got the best writer. They got the writer from The Empire Strikes Back.
That's
wrote
true.
The Force Awakens.
He helped write it with JJ. Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
but
JJ influenced it because
that was the JJ problem.
I think it's JJ. JJ, that's him. He ruined
JJ.
Star Trek, and now he's ruined.
Oh, John,
Well, okay, here's a question then. Where does the Empire and the First Order get the money to make all these big super weapons?
Why is it always getting bigger?
They're an oppressive empire. They tax and spend.
I'll tell you guys from the book. I don't know if any read Aftermath, the official. It's all canon now. The book that ties the movies together between, and there's also a 12-part comic series. Now this is all canon because they have that canon committee now for Star Wars. There is an actual reason, or how the First Order developed is they should have talked about it more on screen instead of making you read a book. But the original Empire actually surrendered after the Battle of Endor to the Republic, and they joined them. So Republic became more powerful because of that. They instead of continuing the fight, because the Empire had been going through a power vacuum and just wasting each other, and it was chaos. So what was the Empire as a whole, all the Moffs surrendered except one faction, led by Snoke, who they haven't just really figured out who he is yet, but they became almost like rebels themselves. They refused to give in and join this new republic. So they took off into the Outer Rim somewhere and basically rebuilt their forces and planned. And then when they made a major comeback, the first, it basically became the First Order. And that's a little backstory that most people don't know unless...
But then again, John's point, where did they get the money?
And how did they build that in secret?
If
the Republic or the rebels didn't know about that?
Well, they were, yeah. Well,
if they're off in the boonies somewhere,
they were out
where the hell are they getting this resources to build
a
planet-sized weapon this time?
Well, the
Republic.
The book says the Republic didn't consider him a big enough threat at the time to pay too much attention to him. They were trying to clean up the rest of the galaxy. So to them, they were more like a little minor.
The Republic is a mess. Let's be very honest. Every time they set up a democratic galaxy-wide republic, it's a mess. It happened over and over and over again throughout the Star Wars universe.
Yeah,
it worked for over 1,000 years previously.
Yeah.
No, it didn't.
He's right. It didn't.
You keep reading, and it's corruption. It's civil war. It's strife. People being enslaved by the Hutts. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm not on the side of the rebels, the Alliance, the Republic. It doesn't work.
You're an Empire.
No, I'm
an Empire guy.
Get it right.
Well, then obviously, if that one's not working, then they need oppression. They need somebody at the top who's going to just put their fist down, right?
Well, guess what? If one thing is not working and it keeps not working, why are you going to keep trying the thing that's not working?
Right.
But that's the theme throughout Star Trek. If the Republic's not working, why is the Empire continually building these super weapons? It's not
Star
working
Wars.
either.
You called it Star Trek.
Well, Star Wars. It's not working either.
Now, you guys understand that this takes place 30 years after the defeat of the Galactic Empire.
Actually, I think it's 35, right? Actually. Yeah.
No, 30 years.
30 okay.
years. Calm down. Now, the new threat is Kylo Ren, who's the son of Han Solo and Princess Leia.
And he's a pussy.
And the guy... Now, what got me is the dude was like,
he's whining.
Help me to be evil.
I know.
Really?
I was laughing at that
Help
point.
me to be evil. I want to so be like you, Grandpa.
I will. No, First of all, there's no communing going on. People kept saying, "Well, why is he communing with the thing?" He's not communing.
He's doing a Hamlet
insane.
talking to the skull type thing.
Yeah, he's right. There's that.
Well, his to be or not to be is like the dude is he's troubled. The guy's like, I want to be bad, but I'm really good. But I'm trying to be bad so that everyone would like me. I mean, what the hell?
I mean, if you take Anakin from the first three, who was a whiny little bitch, and he couldn't deal with his, whatever troubles he has. Then you've got Kylo Ren, who's a whiny little bitch, and now he can't. I want to be bad. I mean, I was like, just bring back Darth Vader. Just put some guy,
right?
Just put some 7-foot dude in a mask. Have him breathe through the scuba gear or whatever. Just bring him back. That's all I want. I want a bad guy.
It was like that Star Wars, the prequel, where he was like, she didn't even recognize me. She didn't even notice me. I'm like, Come on, Anakin, can you be bad?
No, I mean, come on.
What really got me about the prequels was that she's all, and Obi-Wan's sitting there telling her, he killed younglings. And she's like, no, not Annie. And then you flash back to the Attack of the Clones. I killed women and children. It's like, no, he couldn't have done that again.
No, he not only killed them, he slaughtered off a whole village of sand people.
Well, they were sand people. Maybe that's why it was okay. I mean,
it's okay to kill the brown people, the brown alien people. It's all right.
But when you kill Jedi children, then it's bad.
Jedi human children, it's bad. Right.
No, I think there were some alien children.
There was a few. There was a few token minority.
I think there was a couple of Togrutas, which is the race of the Ahsoka. I think there was at least one. Anyways,
all the producers' kids that were in the movie.
Right. Yes.
And everybody's going. Every fan of Han Solo is like, "There's no redeeming him, so we don't even want to see him get redeemed. He better not." And then everybody's like, "Yeah, because it was impossible for Anakin to kill younglings and not be redeemed."
So, John, what was your thoughts on The Force Awakens?
I liked it, but I think it was the same story as the original Star Wars. I mean, it had the same beats to it and followed the same kind of plot line.
Somebody compared it to... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And it has kind of the same plot holes. For example, in the very beginning, the hero sends the robot away, and then the robot somehow winds up meeting the other hero.
That's exactly what I noticed.
That's how the
right?
R2-D2.
Yeah. Right.
That's because R2-D2 and this new robot have the same sort of bitch sense.
They're force-sensitive droids.
They're not force-sensitive. They're not force-sensitive. They're completely sensitive.
I'm joking.
Yeah, so John, I want to get your opinion. Daisy Ridley played Rey. In your opinion, everyone has an opinion on what they think Rey is, a reincarnation of somebody, right? Because this is 30 years after. In your opinion, who is more like Rey in this movie?
What do you mean? Isn't she supposed to be the daughter of Luke, and we don't know who?
Right, but that's a rumor. But what is your opinion?
It's a hot female.
Oh, yeah, I think she is going to be Luke's daughter.
Yep.
Because I read somewhere that in the Disney...
The Force did awaken.
Yeah, in the Disney Infinity game, that there's a line where she says to Kylo, "Come face me, cousin."
Yeah, I heard that too, but Disney did debunk it, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
Right.
Yeah, because when you look at the movie, she's on a desert planet, right? It looks like Tatooine, and she's making her living. She's scavenging and all that stuff.
Right.
Even stronger than that. Even stronger than that is when she touches the blade of her father, supposedly. She gets memories.
Right. It was calling to her.
It was calling to her.
Wait a minute. Whose lightsaber was it? Was it Luke's or was it Darth Vader's?
It was Darth Vader's lightsaber that was given to Luke. Yeah.
That's the one that Obi-Wan gave to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't notice this, but when I watched it again, and there's screenshots of this, the reason I think she's his daughter, one of the reasons, is at the very end when you see Luke and he's about to turn around and look at her, A lot of people didn't catch this. He was actually mourning over a gravestone, not a bunch of gravestones like a bunch of students that were lost. It was one single important person headstone that he was like kind of mourning over. Okay, now one of the rumors going around is that in Rogue One we're going to meet the wife who would soon, in later stories, hook up with Luke, and that the main character is her. That's a rumor that's really...
Oh, so it's not Mace Windu.
Wow.
So you're saying that Mace Windu
Mace Windu and Luke shipping, huh?
No, wait, did we establish it was Mace Windu?
Yeah, Mace Windu, when he died, he went out like a female dog.
Him and his purple lightsaber, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think all the evidence supports that Luke had... So some people are like, well, Han... Did they recognize her? No, I think what it is that when Luke hooked up with the mother, it was when he was off training the Jedi pupils, and he was so far away, and he didn't want anybody to know where they were, so they'd be protected until they were all trained, and that the mother and him hooking up was not even known, and having the kid was not even known to the rest of his family. That's my opinion.
Now, in my knowledge, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker was the last of the Jedi Knights. He wasn't a Jedi Master, but a Knight.
Well, he pretty much became a master once he started training all those students.
He became a master. By necessity.
I don't know. The story says he was the last of the Knights.
He would have been, by default, been the master.
Who could make him a master?
Yeah,
right, because everyone was dead, so he couldn't be.
Here's an example. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
He can just claim he's a master.
I am the master.
Yeah,
because
he is the most trained. He is the most trained Jedi alive. By default, can I finish?
Yeah.
By default, he is the master that will train the next generation. His experiences, his knowledge, his teachings with Yoda and Ben are what's going to go on now as the Jedi experience.
I agree.
You're correct, Roll, but you got to remember he did not have anyone to teach. So how did that make him a master if he did not teach?
He did have students. They just perished.
In the alternate reality that no longer exists.
Well, I don't call myself a master if all my students have died.
Well,
yes.
Ben
and
Solo
if there's no
one
left to argue with you.
That's true.
Yeah.
They knighted. This could have happened too.
Basically,
in the recent Rebels episode, Kanan, who is played by Freddie Prinze Jr., he'd never finished his training before the Jedi were all killed, so he was off hiding his Jedi self, being more like a bounty hunter. Well, in this recent episode, he went into a Jedi temple, and he had a bunch of Force ghosts basically give him his final trial and knight him. So I guess Force ghosts, so that implies that someone like Yoda could have fit even as a ghost.
Not just any Force ghost.
Right, the Inquisitor.
The Force ghost of the first Inquisitor they encountered, who revealed he used to be a Jedi Knight.
Wow.
Right. He was one of the Temple Guards. And so they considered it his final trial because he had one more to go, I guess, throughout the show. So, and they officially did the knighted thing where they do the lightsaber on one side, on the other, and they gave him the official rank of Knight of the Jedi Order. So, if a ghost can do it, then Yoda and Ben could have easily bestowed Luke with that title, even from the afterlife, theoretically.
Well, okay, that's true.
Luke never really called himself a knight. He just called himself a Jedi.
That's true. They never used the term light side.
No,
right.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Others used it for him.
Oh, that's true.
In referring to him. Chewie called him that, and Han repeated it.
Yeah, but he didn't refer that to himself.
He hadn't technically become one yet.
He didn't need to.
He had to
when there's nobody left, and you display massive amounts of power and some wisdom at the end of you basically fumbling around the universe with your powers, and learning from a bit, and having to put down your own father, in a fight, you have proven that you are the master.
Well, no, Luke never completed his training.
Yeah, you don't need. The point is that you don't need to
Yoda said he
complete training when you've gone through the fire.
Well, didn't Yoda say you'll only be complete when you've faced your father?
That's the final trial.
That's when your training will be complete. Didn't he say that?
No more training do you require.
One thing remains, Vader. You must confront Vader. He didn't say defeat him. He said confront Vader.
Yeah. So once he confronted him, his training was complete.
Semantics.
No, it's not.
No, that was what they
You're
called.
You're gonna argue with a 900-year-old little
It's called
squirrel?
foreshadowing.
Yeah, and the 900. Yeah, he's not alive anymore. All right, he's dead.
Well,
He
he
was
said
never
Yoda
alive.
is
He's a
dead.
puppet.
He lived longer than
Why
you
do you
will.
have to hurt his
Yeah,
feelings?
good point.
What do you think, John? Would you agree that was his given trial by Yoda that he had to complete?
Right, yes. And yes, I think that would make him a Jedi Knight, but you're right that he never became a master because there were no more Jedi Masters to give him the new position.
Exactly.
Unless he talks to the Force.
yeah.
I have been validated.
I mean, I also agree that if they're saying that the Star Wars Rebels show can say the Force ghosts can make him a master, well, can they make him a master or
No,
a
they
knight?
He'd always been. I think,
What makes a Jedi a master?
Exactly.
I can actually.
Well, it's sort of like
Is it just
let me
title,
explain.
Just kneel down. I'm going to touch your head. Now
No,
you're a
well,
master.
I will explain. It's sort of like, you always laugh at me because I break bricks, right? I'm
you break bricks.
martial artist, right?
Yes.
I have black
First
belts
master of
in.
your school.
So the number of bricks you break with your
we can
head,
talk
that
about
makes you a master?
And
can
actually,
tell you,
Here's a very pointed question. Who was the first master of your school, and who did he learn from?
Hey, Luke's looking up the temple, the first shot.
What makes a person a master?
I can tell you right now.
You train someone to the level of yourself, and then that person you trains someone else to be that same level.
The founder of a
That
school
makes you a master.
the founder of a school has to come from somewhere.
That's true, but I'm going to give you an actual example from the third movie, Revenge of the Sith, where it happened. When Palpatine told the Jedi Council he was appointing Anakin on the council, he was all hyper because he made the assumption that he was automatically going to be granted the title Master because he was put on the council. And Windu even corrected him. We are allowing you on this council, but we do not grant you, he said, the rank of Master. That was a verbal confirmation of how that decision is made, is when someone's put on the council. If Luke's the only member of a council, he's a Master.
Well, let me ask you this. Remember in the first episode, once Obi-Wan has killed the Jedi, the Sith, cut his head off, cut him in half, right? And he said, "Well, we're going to give you Anakin to train." Is Obi-Wan a master at that point?
No, he was appointed a knight.
He now has a Padawan, so he now has.
Anakin had a Padawan in Clone Wars.
Yeah,
and he
you can have a Padawan before. Yeah. You don't need to be a master.
So you don't need a master to have a student.
Obi-Wan wasn't a master yet. He was just he was getting to that rank, but he wasn't quite there yet.
But you still have the overall order at that point who will designate who becomes a master or not.
Right.
I have to agree. If he's the only one left,
he's a
he
master.
Can call
he's his own council.
Mm-hmm.
He's his own council at that point, so he has to.
He's basically restarting the traditions,
and it's his order.
He becomes his own order.
His own order, again. Correct.
So but it doesn't matter now since freaking Kylo Ren slaughtered them all.
Maybe Kylo Ren was his teacher. Maybe Kylo Ren was his student.
He didn't actually say that. That's the funny part, because according to the novel, that vision she had was in the future, not the past. She was seeing the Knights of Ren getting attacked, and she wasn't seeing. Everybody assumed it was. We were watching the slaughter of his students. That wasn't what she was seeing. The novel makes that very clear.
Well, I would think
I don't remember that from the novel.
I think if Episode 8 is going to be like the original Star Wars, we're going to find out that Luke tried to teach Kylo, but something went wrong.
Yeah,
I think Kylo was tempted by the dark side.
I actually think it's going to be a conflict between the two. It's going to be the training and conflict. I think it's going to be slightly different. It's not going to be a same old pattern where it follows Empire exactly. It's going to be a training of the methodologies between Snoke and Awakening. The conflict between the two apprentices, a preliminary showdown before the third movie.
I think it's possible the other Knights of Ren that we know were part of it too could have gotten all of them to turn against Luke. They may not have been all slaughtered. They might all be his school. Because Han said that he destroyed it all. He didn't say he killed all the students. I think he could have. The ones who didn't join them, they were killed.
So the Jedi Order's dead again.
It was like a mass turning of the dark side.
There's two. There's a beginning. There's a master, and now there's a Padawan for him to train.
The Knights of Ren, from what they're describing in a lot of things, are basically Inquisitors. That's what the Rebels is leading up to revealing, that they are sort of what become the Knights of Ren later. That's why they're going to Malachor next week, and that's why Darth Maul.
That's what I think.
I'm very excited about that.
Snoke is a Master Inquisitor. That's what I think he is.
I think Snoke's a Sith, and there's a rumor that Benicio del Toro is his number 2, because there could be only 2, and that he's going to be a Sith. And
the rule of 2 is over.
We don't know that.
I was going to say, I was going to change that.
The Knights of Ren are not Sith, though. Because Rebels has established that you can have a bunch of Inquisitors. They don't get the full title or training, but they are acolytes of the dark side. They're dark Jedi.
The rule of 2 is not throughout the Sith lore.
Oh, I know.
It comes and goes. It was established through Darth Bane when he saw that the Force gathers in people, and it escalates and it de-escalates with people. So he wanted it to gather in 2 powerful Sith, and basically have them slaughter the entire order of basically much weaker Jedi. That's what he assumed.
The guy, I forget the guy's name, Pablo something or other. He's the showrunner he's one of the showrunners that ties the Rebels together with he's the head of the continuity panel there, the Canon Keepers. He made a statement on Twitter. He said, "You did not ever see a single Sith in The Force Awakens. There were none." But he could have been lying too. But he said you never saw a single Sith. None of them were Sith. He doesn't mean they aren't going to come back, but he said you haven't seen a Sith on Force Awakens. That's what he said on Twitter. I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, you didn't technically see Snoke either. You just saw, Mr. Hologram.
Yeah, well, there could be other. Just because there used to be people go. Here's why I think. We get a couple minutes. Here's what I think. Just because their rule of 2 exists, if someone Darth Maul is coming back on Rebels. Now, he's going to try to train Ezra. Well, this is what the commercials suggest. He'll probably fight Vader and Ahsoka. But technically, there's only 2 Sith. Darth Vader and Palpatine. As far as the Order and the Headmaster, Maul is no longer... It's like how Count Dooku was an ex-Jedi. Well, technically, Maul is an ex-Sith. So he's just a wannabe at this point. He's on his own road. So it's possible when he said you didn't see a Sith... That could be what he means. Snoke could have been a former Sith who denounced it because he was like, "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing my own thing." It's an order like the Jedi, so you don't have to stay in it. Ahsoka left the Jedi Order, and she's considered, they call her Grey Jedi, but she's not a Jedi. She was explaining that a couple episodes ago, and she was like, "I left the Jedi Order, so I'm technically not a Jedi. So that you guys should be the ones."
She made a choice.
She made a choice, and so she still acts like a Jedi, but she's not one.
She made a choice to not stick around with people who threw her to the wolves.
Yep. Well, that also helped. Anyways. Well, yeah, we should probably start winding down for time, because...
I do have a question. Sure. I think it's legit. Will posted this. Why is the Empire so obsessed with constantly rebuilding the Death Star?
Because it needs a super weapon to intimidate the universe.
Right?
It couldn't do something better, I guess.
It doesn't have the numbers to actually take over the entire universe.
It can
so
knock
it needs
down
a super weapon.
Because the only thing that would hold the Empire together in the long term would be fear of rebellion, fear of complete and utter destruction.
Yeah, basically. That's the thing.
I guess
Although
Go ahead.
Fear itself is only works for a certain amount of time. Then you get rebellion as a natural reaction. We've seen that in history over and over again.
I enjoyed this interview and conversation.
Actually, I have
John.
Question that we might want to dive into. So,
we can do it for a few minutes.
Right. By Star Wars, there are no Jedi. All that's left is the Emperor and Darth Vader. So, shouldn't the whole Jedi, Sith, and Force users become kind of like an urban legend type thing?
They
well,
did.
there is a Jedi left.
Right. Okay. By that, right. But by that point, say at the end of Star Wars, Obi-Wan is dead, but Luke is learning the Force. So when Darth Vader almost shoots down Luke in the Death Star trench, he's like, the Force is strong with this one. How come he's not more surprised that there's someone using the Force at this point?
In Rebels, there's 2 or 3 Jedi still alive at this point.
Right, but I think they're all dead at this point.
Well, Force users still occur in the galaxy, even though the Jedi Order has been eliminated.
Defunct.
So finding someone who is strong in the Force isn't a surprise as much as it is, uncommon as it is a pleasant surprise.
The Force, Force as a natural event, it's a natural occurring event that it will gather in somebody, and that person will then have the ability to use the Force both dark side and light side.
It's about who they consider a threat. That's what I was going to say. That Pablo guy, the Cannon Keepers, answered a question once. They were trying to say, well, we don't know yet who by the end of Rebels is going to survive because they kept saying Luke was the last of the Jedi. So one thing Pablo said was, well, we can tell you this. When we had a discussion about this, when you're doing retconning and showing other Jedis running around and some of them if they survive or not all the way through, well, the prophecy was about Luke being. It's not that there aren't other potential learning Jedis and Force users. It's who's a threat to the Emperor, who's a threat to Darth, who's strong enough by their natural gift to be a threat. Just because there's a Jedi out there doesn't mean that he's part of the prophecy, because he might not even be close to the power level that is needed to take on Vader.
And just because you're MID positive does not make you a Jedi.
And the guys from Rebels have been shown to be no match at all for Vader.
They are like level 1, and John, you used to play D&D, right?
Right, yeah.
Kanan's like level, I want to say 12, and Ezra, his apprentice, is growing in power, and he's like level like 5, I think, and he just got knighted, Kanan. And when they fought Vader, it was no contest. Vader took the both on like they were nothing, and the Inquisitors too. But when Ahsoka came in one episode, she easily beat the 2 Inquisitors by herself. She even toyed with them. She sat there and put her lightsabers down and got on her knees and closed her eyes. And when the female Inquisitor tried to kill her, she just caught it and shut it off and threw it and said, "Now what? What you got?"
Of course, she was trained by freaking Anakin.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
there's a lot.
And then kind of a follow-up to that, by The Force Awakens, Han Solo says, "Oh, the Jedi, Sith, everything, just stories, they're true." And then when they meet up with the pirate, I forget her name, and they get Luke's lightsaber, and then Finn uses the lightsaber against the Stormtrooper, and the Stormtrooper is just like, "Oh, okay, well, I've got my own weapon." Why isn't he surprised that someone's using a lightsaber that he's probably never seen before?
He does work for Kylo Ren.
Yeah. I don't think the lightsabers themselves are unusual weapons. I think the ability to use them effectively are I think that they're as relics. People still have them around as collectibles.
It's like the scene from Indiana Jones. He's running through the square, and then the guy on the other end brandishes his saber and starts swinging it around wildly, and then he shoots him in the face.
Okay, so...
And you got to remember, 30 years prior, Jedi was a hokey and ancient religion.
Right.
Oh, Jedi was everywhere, though.
Hokey and ancient religion.
30 years prior, Jedi were... No, 30 years prior was... No, yeah, okay, sorry. I was thinking
50 years.
The Empire.
50 years. 20 plus 30 is 50 years.
Yeah.
The old Republic.
Guys, I want to talk about this again in another show because we do have to wrap it up. But yeah, this was a very interesting episode. I enjoyed the discussion. I think there's nothing wrong with talking about Star Wars. It's all good geek stuff.
It's all about the geek.
Mm-hmm.
All right.